Welcome to episode 14 of the Motorcar Marketing Podcast. I'm Ashley Myers with MotorcarMarketing.com. In this episode's main segment, I'm going to be talking with Jim Ziegler. Jim has been in the automotive industry for decades and has a ton of great information to share, so stay tuned for that. If you find this episode valuable, please help us out by giving us a review in iTunes or leaving a comment on YouTube or retweeting the podcast on Twitter or liking us on Facebook. These social media shares really do help spread the word about the podcast, so it's very much appreciated. If you have any questions or comments about anything, feel free to send us an email at info@motorcarmarketing.com. I want to improve this podcast, so some honest, constructive feedback is always very much appreciated. Couple of quick notes. Any websites or links that I mention in the podcast can be found on the website in the show notes. I also publish a transcript with every episode in case you'd rather read the show or look at something later on. You can find all the podcast show notes at www.motorcarmarketing.com/podcasts. Just look for episode 14. We recently put together a free guide for car dealers called the Quick Start Auto Dealer Marketing Guide. You can get it by going to motorcarmarketing.com/guide. It's completely free. You just put in your email address and the lessons will be emailed to you over the course of the next few days. We've tried to concentrate on the high leverage things you can do with each marketing channel so you can get the maximum results in the shortest amount of time. We'll be adding more lessons to this guide in the future, but to start out, we'll show you how to increase your ROI and sell more cars on Craigslist, how to quickly set up Google pay-per-click campaigns, how to begin generating leads from local search engine optimization, and how to effectively use email marketing to generate leads that correspond with your past customers. Again, this guide is completely free. Just go to motorcarmarketing.com/guide. So now let's get into the main segment. Today I'm talking with automotive industry veteran Jim Ziegler. Here is the interview.
Welcome, Jim, to the Motorcar Marketing Podcast. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Hey, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So to start out, I wonder if you can give us a quick overview of your career and how you got into the auto industry.
I got into the auto industry completely by accident. 38 years ago, I was in radio broadcast. I was a DJ. I was fairly well established in one of the biggest radio stations in the country, and I got divorced. I became depressed, and I thought I'd drop out and sell cars for a while. I was just going to do this till I could get a good job. So, 38 years ago. And I became a manager. I moved to Atlanta in 1982. I set some records in the industry and became nationally known. And I was a F&I manager most of my career, and I was a general sales manager 1 year. And started the company in 1986. And we've been extremely successful since.
Okay, perfect. So let's talk about the Alpha Dawg persona for a bit. I think it's yeah. I think it offers a great look at personal branding. I know I've seen some videos where, it's kind of tongue in cheek. But let's just talk about it for a minute. Where did that come from? And, how do you see personal branding as, an advantage to your business?
Well, first of all, Alpha Dawg is a name that I gave myself. It wasn't a nickname a bunch of friends gave me. It was just the Alpha Dawg, the leader, the undisputed, whatever. It's just one of those things that I don't take it all that seriously. It's people that look at it and they shake their head at the jewel. $100,000 worth of jewelry on my hands. I wear the baseball hats that say Alpha Dawg. It's Elvis on stage. I'm creating a cartoon persona. I'm not that serious about it.
But you're not afraid. I think one of the things that's interesting to me about it is you're not afraid to, sort of maybe annoy a few people. I mean, there's that old saying, the middle of the road is a dangerous place to drive. And so, by taking on this sort of persona, I think, yes, you're going to annoy a few people, but you're also going to pick up and get some people that are very passionate about you. And that's kind of key in personal branding.
One thing you're going to find is nobody on earth is going to say, Jim Ziegler, I can take him or leave him.
Exactly.
I've got my fans and I've got other people, but I will tell you, if you don't want to hear the answer, don't ask the question, because I will tell you exactly what's on my mind no matter who it offends.
So, okay, perfect. So let's get into some car dealer marketing and sales and marketing. I work with a lot of dealers, and basically they advertise on Cars.com, AutoTrader, Craigslist, and you can basically scratch out a living like this if you're willing to compete aggressively on price. And I've heard you talk about this sort of limbo dance dealers do, where they just keep having to lower their prices more and more in sort of a race to the bottom. Let's talk about that for a minute. How can dealerships get out of this loop where the only way they can differentiate themselves is by competing on price?
It's amazing. We have one of the few industries in the world that we have less than 3 to 5% markup and are apologizing for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, real estate and jewelry are marked up 300%, but Dan Rather in 60 Minutes has never exposed a jewelry store.
Mm-hmm.
It's always some poor car dealer trying to hold his 3% and feeling proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, we've got to wean ourselves away from the vendors that are driving the prices down. I mean, they've inserted another level of profit between us and the consumer, and most of the vendors we're doing business with are making more profit on these cars than we are.
Mm-hmm.
And they're controlling the pricing. The first generation of lead providers basically gave you a lead and you worked the deal. And let's face it, most car dealers are honest. I mean, most car dealers are not the way they're portrayed. We have vendors portraying us to be terrible people. I mean, that stereotype probably went out in the 70s, but they still perpetuate it because it's to their advantage to create distrust with the consumers. The dealers have got to recapture the first page of Google. The virtual showroom has moved to the internet, and Google is the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you right now, if any dealer listening to this podcast were to go and Google up your make of car, Chevrolet, and a model, Silverado, and your town, Dayton, Ohio, and those are the three things that most consumers are going to put into a Google search, the make of the car, the model of the car, and the city they want to buy. And you're going to find out that all of these vendors are popping up, and the dealers aren't even on their own first page.
Mm-hmm.
They've stolen your market. And by the way, I believe these lead providers have a definite place in the industry. You know, we should use them. They could be good, but we also have to own our own turf.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying fire all the vendors. I'm saying transform the vendors. Don't make them justify. Because truthfully, a lot of these vendors are not producing enough to justify their high prices.
Mm-hmm. And let's get this just to step back. We're really talking about like the Autotrader.com, the Cars.com, these sites that have aggressively marketed themselves. And as you say, when you type in a year, make, model, what's that?
Now this is a personal opinion, but I personally detest car gurus,
mm-hmm.
and a lot of people don't even know who they are, but they are stealing your first page of Google in almost every market. And a lot of your vendors are reselling your inventory to other vendors.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be amazed. I was in a private speech in Columbus, Ohio last week, and I had like 60 car dealer principals in the room, and I was showing them on Google where vendors were shipping their customers out of their marketplace. And I showed one dealer where his inventory, one of his units in stock was on like 100 websites that he didn't put that inventory on.
Mm-hmm.
I put his serial number in Google, and it pulled up 100 different websites. Your vendors are really doing some things behind your back that you're not aware of.
Yeah. And I think just to play devil's advocate here for a minute, I think one of the things the vendors would say is that while this obviously puts pressure on the dealers, it may be better for the consumers in bringing down prices. What would you say to something like that?
Oh, how far down? When, you know, if they go to where the dealer isn't making a profit, and let's say the vendors completely won the battle to put car dealers out of business and turned dealerships into warehouses, you're going to end up with Best Buy. You're going to end up with big warehouses, and they're going to set the prices. The prices will go up. Dealers are not making an unreasonable profit. Most new car dealers today are not profitable in the new car department. You know, the new car department's a throwaway.
Mm-hmm.
And consumers might get what they wish for, because service and some of the things we do, and most dealers are contributing heavily back to the communities, the dealers that are emotionally, historically invested in their communities.
Mm-hmm.
We're good people, and that's my biggest gripe with some of these vendors that portray us to be thieves and criminals, when in fact we are very community oriented. We're putting uniforms on the little league teams. We're building wings on the hospitals. We're doing wonderful things in our communities, and we're paying vendors that are vilifying us, and that just frosts me.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just take that thread and go with that. So you say transform these vendors. One of the things, it is the nature of the internet, is this, I think, this comparison shopping that people do, and that's really, ultimately driving these prices down. What could we do? What could the dealerships do to try and get Cars.com and AutoTrader to be more sort of on their side?
Well, they used to be lead providers. Now they're trying to tell us they're advertisers, an advertising source. Mm-hmm. No, excuse me, I don't need another advertising source. They can't justify their pricing. You remember the movie Jerry Maguire, Show Me the Money?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got something to, Cars.com, show me the ups. Don't tell me how many page views I got. Don't tell me how many people are visiting how many people did you generate? And the latest thing I'm hearing from the vendors is, well, they didn't come in through our site, but they researched you on our site.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most bogus explanation in the world for their pricing.
Mm-hmm.
Show me the ups. Show me justification of how many units you produced in sales. And not just because you're manipulating the price, and find out what others paid. And, there's only so much profitability in a car deal, and dealers don't want to cheat the consumers. We're talking about a fair profitability. Most consumers have no idea that we make as little on cars as we do, because they've been sold distrust.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Okay, so let's take another sort of step back. You said,
mm-hmm.
we've got to own the first page of Google. Maybe you can give us some tips about how somebody could potentially own that first page of Google.
Well, first of all, you've got to have a website that converts the customers to an appointment, to sales, to a contact.
Mm-hmm.
The website has got to be really well mapped out. And some of these websites are terrible. They're not maximized. They're not optimized. They're not what I call heat mapped.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a definite science of where customers go on a website. And like the prime real estate, for example, is the upper right-hand corner. That's the first place the eyes look. And I see dealers all day long that don't have their phone number prominently displayed in the upper right-hand corner of their website.
Mm-hmm.
And the vendors, I get this is funny, the vendors will say, well, we put it in a place where they had to look for it because we want to convert the customer to an email so we can convert them to a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Well, excuse me, stupid, let's start out with a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
But if we start out with a phone call, they won't have a form filled out, they won't have a record, because we've got vendors right now dropping cookies in the consumers' browsers.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these are websites that the manufacturer requires that you have. The manufacturer is monitoring your website activity. And when that consumer leaves your website, these vendors are still tracking them all over the internet. Mm-hmm. and remarketing to them continuously. So, first of all, we need to be sure that our websites are upright. Second of all, we've got to have an SEO strategy ourselves. Concentrating Bing and Yahoo and all these other search entities, they're okay, but still Google's the Mac Daddy. It's the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't own Google, you own nothing. And I was showing dealers in this meeting I had in Columbus, Ohio last week. I was showing the back screens on their computer. I was going into the source codes. And some of their website vendors had no source coding at all. No meta tags whatsoever. And these were big website companies. Some of the biggest.
Mm-hmm.
Hold your website provider accountable for conversion. Your website should be built to attract and retain and convert customers to a contact, to a sale.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what the lead providers are doing. If we mimic what they're doing and drive them off the first page of Google, our sales will go up.
For sure, yeah. So we've talked about some of the big changes that you've seen in your 38-year career in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you can let's talk about just some of the things that have basically stayed the same. What are some constants and some things that, you know, kind of never change in the auto industry?
Well, first of all, the auto industry has changed. But the road to the sale, and there's a whole theory, old school, new school. Excuse me, there is no old school, new school. The road to the sale didn't die, it evolved.
Mm-hmm.
Technology was added to the road to the sale. You know, we still have to make the appointment. We still have to cause the consumer to contact us. We still have to do all the basic blocking and tackling we've always had to do. And the negatives are gone. The consumer is fully transparent today. They know exactly what we paid for the car. They know about financing. But the average consumer's on the internet for 3 hours before they even make the first contact of a car dealership or even one of the vendors. I can find out the invoice. I can find out the financing. I can find out everything about the money in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
What are they doing with the rest of the 2 hours and 55 minutes? They're researching the cars, the equipment, that's what we have to educate our salespeople. Selling a car is still not a dirty word. It's not a bad thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't trick the customer, deceive the customer. You finesse and persuade. I tell salesmen every day, we hired you because we suspected you had a personality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you don't genuinely like people, get out of the car business.
Yeah.
It's not an adversarial relationship. These are our friends.
Mm-hmm.
And
so,
this is what, it's always been that way.
Sure. So as someone who goes into a lot of dealerships, you talk with a lot of sales guys, a lot of sales managers. I wonder if you could just give us a few common problems that you see and then tell us how to correct those common problems.
Okay, I've been in 1,000 showrooms minimum in 49 states. I have not yet been to Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
I have desk deals and worked with customers in every other state. That's kind of cool. I got a pin map in Alaska, just bare. So I might get there before I die. Who knows?
Uh-huh.
But so I've talked to a lot of people. Everything I'm telling you today is experiential. It's not something I read in a book or something I theorized.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing we're seeing with people today is the quality of our salespeople. And there's a big move on today, with profits going down, to pay your salespeople less and your management less. And there are vendors out there selling people consulting programs how you can pay your people less. Well, when you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. And that's what we're getting. And the consumers want a better quality salesperson. Well, you have to pay people to get better quality people, and you got to educate your salespeople. And the sad part today is we're chasing Generation Y, the millennials, and the millennials really can't buy anything. They're all living in mama's basement playing Xbox all day, saving up for their next tattoo. They're not car buyers.
Uh-huh.
So what are we dealing with? We're basically dealing with a sales force that is not loyal, that turns over, that'll change jobs at the drop of a hat and leave you for a warehouse job if the hours are too long.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so it's the quality of what we put in front of the public is the biggest challenge today.
Mm-hmm. And what are some tips for that? I mean, again, a lot of the dealers that I work with, it's like I talk to them and I can see it's like, they're cash strapped, and it becomes this sort of vicious cycle where, they want to pay more, but they can't because they're not earning more. What are some tips to maybe get better sales guys on your floor?
Well, first of all, you've got to make a better profit so you can afford to do that. You're right. Second of all, you got to pre-screen your people. You got to go through some poop to find a pearl. And don't just hire bodies to put out there because you need coverage. And there are some really good people available. Find them.
Mm-hmm.
And constantly be recruiting salespeople. Don't recruit salespeople when you finally realize you're out of people.
Mm-hmm.
Most dealerships do not sell the amount of automobiles they could sell because they're understaffed. Unfortunately, salespeople have what I call a nut mentality, and this is a number of salespeople, probably as many as 70%. They're not 70% of the salespeople out there, and this is not a number that I've seen research on. I just feel it's 70%. Mm-hmm. I think 70% of the salespeople today are just working to pay their bills one more time in a row. They're not trying to get ahead. They're not trying to be a manager. They're not trying to own a dealership. They're not trying to be a super success. They're just passing through till they get another job, and they're trying to keep ahead of their bills. They're one paycheck away from homeless. Mm-hmm. And that's not the kind of people we need. I want people that are motivated and have a goal and inspiration. And to find those people, you're going to have to dig through it. But those people are out there, people with a work ethic. Mm-hmm. There's four pillars of prosperity: attitude, desire, work ethic, and competency. Attitude, I can't give you attitude. I just strut around on stage and show you what attitude looks like. Uh-huh. I've got attitude, Uh-huh. I believe in me, and I am bulletproof and invisible, So attitude. And then work ethic. I'm where I am because I'm willing to do things other people are not willing to do to get what they say they want. Mm-hmm. Desire. I'm going to tell you right now, most people don't want it badly enough. When I motivate salespeople, I have to ask them, what do you want? And they really haven't thought about it. Do you want a bigger house than you now live in, a nicer home? You want a motorcycle? You want a car? You want a better car? You want vacation? You want jewelry? You want luxury vacations, dining, education for your children, security into your old age? Why are you doing this? And once I can make them understand why they're doing it and have a goal and have a clear vision of what they want, that you don't just want another paycheck and then, another night in the tavern. No, you want something beyond all of this. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing I have to. You motivate salespeople with quality of life. You don't motivate salespeople with money. Yeah. Money is for hookers and pawnbrokers.
There you go. So let's maybe you could just tell us what's the best way for people to kind of keep up with you and follow you. You can mention maybe some of your websites and your Twitter account, and I'll link to all this in the show notes. But just tell us some of those links now so we can get people to you.
Okay, well, I've got 100,000 friends and followers on the social media. I'm making $30,000 a month on my Facebook page.
Okay.
That's just part of my income, but that's social media is another avenue we need to really get a handle on. My Facebook page is facebook.com/James A. Ziegler, and that's Ziegleri before E. And you'll find, if you Google me up, I come up over 4 million times legitimately. You'll find me. Uh-huh. But my main website that I get a kick out of today is the Alpha Dawg, and that's DAWG, dog, like Georgia Bulldogs, alphadogblog.com. The alphadogblog.com, all the articles, I write for 3 magazines, as you know. Mm-hmm. And, probably the most read columnist in the industry if you total those 3 together. Alpha Dawg, DAWG blog, has all my articles in the past and all my upcoming events, and ZieglerSuperSystems.com, ProsperityEquation.com. I've got 50 or 60 websites out there.
Okay, perfect, yeah. So now tell me, you said $30,000 a month on Facebook. What is that income coming in from?
Well, like next week in Seattle, and this broadcast you and I are doing right now will come out too late to advertise that event, but I've got an event next week in Seattle, InternetBattlePlan.com. where I've got 20 speakers on stage plus myself for 2.5 days teaching dealership internet practices. We've got another one coming up called the Super Sales Management Conference coming up in November in Atlanta. Will be another 20 speakers.
Okay.
And that is Super Sales Management Conference, or ZieglerSuperConference.com is that one. And that website is up right now. We haven't populated it yet, but we just did one in Dallas. I've done 20 or 30 of these big conferences. We'll have about 150 people there and 20 sponsors.
Yeah, perfect. So, Jim, you've been very generous with your time. I really appreciate it. This has been very
valuable.
Any way
I can help you.
Yep,
I'm here for you. I'm here for the dealers.
Yeah, perfect. I think the dealers are going to listen to this and get a lot of value out of it. So this has been really helpful.
Thank you.
Just a quick plug for our Craigslist posting service. If you're having any problems getting your cars onto Craigslist, please give us a call. We can help. We can get all your ads up quickly and cheaply using our professional templates so your ads will look great and stand out. What I've found with a lot of dealers is that if they rely on someone in-house to post their ads, the postings can slip between the cracks some days. Errors can be made, and some cars get posted twice while other cars aren't posted at all. That doesn't happen with our system. We'll keep your ads up and live 100% of the time. Give us a call or check out our website to learn more. 818-754-5745 or go to motorcarmarketing.com. Just a quick thought on today's interview with Jim. I've been giving a lot of thought to what Jim said about owning the first page of Google for your dealership. I think that really is key because then you're not really nearly as reliant on big sites like Autotrader.com and Cars.com. I'm actually doing some testing, creating some local sites here in Southern California and seeing if I can get them ranked for some good keywords. We'll see. If there's any dealers out there who want to be involved in this beta test, please let me know. I'm happy to run some of these experiments in your local area too so we can see what sort of Google traffic we can get. Anyway, that's our show. I hope you got some value out of it and it can help you grow your business. Thanks for listening.